Hey guys, it's Nick here with another episode of How Bad Was It? The key issue series where we take a look at comic books, television shows, movies, and video games and dissect them to try to understand how bad was it. Now, as always, for those of you who are new to the series, try to understand the goal of this series isn't simply to shred a universally disliked subject item. The goal is to take an objective look at a topic and determine if it really warrants all the hatred that it received. We've come up with a pretty simple scale to help out, and in the end, something will end up being really bad, pretty bad, not bad, or good. It could actually be good. That being said, today's subject is the 2015 feature film Fantastic Four. To be clear, we're discussing the 2015 reboot of the Fantastic Four franchise by Fox. Fox had a large initial success in the second age of superhero movies, with the first Fantastic Four series starring Jessica Alba and now Captain America Chris Evans. The original Fantastic Four was a financial success, making $300 million on a budget of $100 million, which is no small achievement. It's pretty good. Everyone was buying Ferraris and toasting to the success of their new major franchise, and then the sequel happened. Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer brought in $50 million less at only $290 million, with a large budget of $130 million. Questionable decisions in the retelling of arguably the best Fantastic Four story of all time, like making Galactus the World Devourer a traveling space fart, led to poor reviews and kept fans away. Fox executives returned their Ferraris and promptly bought Dodge Stratuses, and the studio cut their losses and decided to bide its time. Now, let me continue by saying that I really love the Fantastic Four. You have to respect what these books have accomplished. Written by Stan Lee and drawn by Jack Kirby, these stories set the groundwork for basically everything you have ever watched or read for the last 50 years. I've read hundreds and hundreds of Fantastic Four comics. If you consider yourself even the most casual of a comic book fan, you owe it to yourself to go out and buy a couple trade paperbacks, do the research, have some self-respect. Anyways, back to the movie. Enter what I'd like to call the golden age of comic book films, the one that we're living in right now. The Dark Knight trilogy and the runaway success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe showed that comic book films could be multi-billion-dollar franchises. Fox started investing heavily into their X-Men franchise again and decided it was time for Fantastic Four to make a comeback. Josh Trank, at this point most well known for his film Chronicle, was hired to direct the franchise reboot. Trank's film Chronicle received excellent reviews and has gained a massive cult following, and he seemed like a great fit for the project. However, the film seemed plagued, right away, by a multitude of bad decisions from top executives and production staff. The film was reportedly gutted by the studio with only a few months left in production and made to go through really painful reshoots. All of this was ordered by top executives who probably didn't get it because they're plebeians anyway. Honestly, I don't even remember any publicity for the film going into this thing. Fantastic Four didn't even have a trailer or merchandise revealed until 2 months before the film came out. Additionally, the film was heavily criticized by fans for the inclusion of Michael B. Jordan's casting as Johnny Storm. Jordan, a black actor and up-and-coming star, was cast to play Johnny Storm. He was paired with an on-screen sister, Susan Storm, played by Kate Mara, a white actress. The decision to include Michael B. Jordan was questionable. Johnny Storm was never black in the comics and left many fans questioning the impact this decision would have on his relationship with Susan Storm. Ultimately, they explained it relatively simple in the film. Susan's adopted. Big whoop. But at the time, many fans questioned the reasoning behind the casting. Now that we know that the film was already on fire before it even started production, let's discuss the actual film. Fantastic Four seems more in line with the Ultimate Universe Fantastic Four series. In fact, the plot through the first act is almost page for page the same story as the first 2 issues of Ultimate Fantastic Four. The beginning of the story centers on childhood friends Reed Richards, played by Miles Teller, and Ben Grimm, played by Jamie Bell. Reed, a childhood genius, creates a teleporter in his garage, and ultimately it gets accepted into a prestigious foundation. Reed's recruited to join the Foundation and continue his research into creating what they call a quantum gate, basically like a dimensional gate. Along the way, he meets love interest Susan Storm and her brother Johnny. Eventually, the team meets Victor Von Doom, also a genius, but equally talented in the field of assholery, played by Toby Kebbell. The group, minus Susan because patriarchy, eventually travels through the quantum gate and travels into a parallel dimension known as Planet Zero. Victor, being the asshole he is, can't not do the one thing he's being asked not to do, aka touch yellow or green radioactive lava, and ultimately sets off a chain reaction that causes a massive planetary disturbance and destruction. Reed, Johnny, and Ben make it back to the teleporter while Victor falls into lava, presumably dying. The teleporter explodes, altering everyone in the group at a genetic level, setting up the fact that they now have superpowers. At this point, the film was still good to me. It was fairly true to the Ultimate Comics, and I enjoyed the younger cast. And if you're still with me, I want you to abandon all hope, ye who enter here. I want you to go ahead and let go of any positive feelings I may have helped you feel, because you won't be needing joy or happiness where we're going next. The team is now imbued with powers. Reed can stretch, Sue can turn invisible and create force fields, Johnny can fly and burst into flame, and Ben turns into a big rock with super strength. Par for the course Fantastic Four stuff. However, now the team is placed into government custody, basically turned into lab rats. Reed escapes and goes through a weird Bourne Identity side mission where he hides out in the jungles and villages of Central America. Eventually, he's recovered by Sue and Ben, who are now being used as government agents. Reed is made to construct a new teleporter to open a gateway back to Planet Zero. There they find Victor alive and well, kind of. He is fused to his spacesuit and imbued with his own power. He can basically control the entire planet for some reason. It makes no sense because Doom doesn't have any of these powers, and his motivations are pretty much thinner than gas station toilet paper. Standard third act crap happens, and the Fantastic Four get their asses kicked for a bit, rally, and then defeat Doom. Everybody hugs, and the movie ends. See, the movie falls apart in the second and third acts. I don't think studio involvement has ever been more apparent in a film. Upon my second and third viewing of the film, it's almost like two films were being thrown together, written and directed by two separate teams. There's a right and wrong way to write a script, and this is a masterclass in how to do it the wrong way. Character motivations change, the main cast becomes increasingly unlikable, particularly Reed Richards. Miles Teller is capable of some amazing acting, and he was sorely underwritten here. Have you ever seen Whiplash? Because that movie's amazing and you should. Go watch it. Miles' character Reed was built in the first act as a quirky yet fun lead. I genuinely believe that if the movie kind of kept going down the path that it had set in the first act, Fantastic Four could have been a great film. However, after Reed goes all Logan's Run, he comes back and the whole group dynamic changes. He seems like a grizzled, stretchy outlaw. It makes no sense when they decide in the third act to give him the status of hero again. This also affects Jamie Bell's character in a really awkward way. Jamie Bell, Ben Grimm, was also really fun in the first act. You get to see him when he shows up again in the film after some fast forwarding, and however, the second that blast hits and gives everyone powers, his character development ends. The relationship between Ben and Reed is stressed by Brent's transformation in the comics, but ultimately, the strength of their friendship prevails. In this film, it's handled in such a grim, dark way that upon my second viewing of the film, when they do become friends again, I kept listening for someone to mention the name Martha. In the comics, Ben does go through a period of self-doubt and depression, but he's still an energetic and fun character. His signature phrase, "It's clobberin' time," is one of the most well-known phrases in comics. Bell's Grimm is a brooding Debbie Downer, dude. It's unfair for audiences to have to watch it. We understand the emotional weight, but don't forget to have fun. It's a comic book movie. Kate Mara's Susan Storm seems like the kind of person to respond to a thought-filled text with the message, K. She doesn't mesh well with Miles, and they form a very unlikable romantic duo, and believe me, I wanted to like them. They're Marvel's first family. Honestly, her character is pretty forgettable. She doesn't share the same amount of screen time or spotlight as other characters in the film, and it's a shame because she's a good actress. The highlight of the film acting-wise was Michael B. Jordan. He seemed to capture the essence of Johnny Storm fairly well, and he played a lighthearted hero with something to prove. All the complaining by the internet race police seemed misplaced. Jordan was the only person I found myself looking forward to seeing on the screen at any given time. Additionally, the CGI improvements over the last decade helped to make the character look awesome. Lastly, we have Toby Kebbell's Doom, a character who doesn't resemble any version of Doctor Doom I can think of. I'm fairly certain the man has no doctorate as well. He's just massively unlikable, even by villain standards. It's almost like they threw him in because they had to, because some guy in a suit in a conference room thought that Doom had to be the villain because it's the only one that he knew about. I would have rather seen them write a giant unnamed monster into the movie than this pathetic excuse for the greatest villain in the history of comics. Over the next few months, a lot of harsh criticism came out for Fantastic Four, and we learned from the director Josh Trank that his original version of the film was very, very different. I won't get into that script, but if you want to find out what it is, just Google it, it's available. This film seems like a monument to bad decision-making from Fox. The film became the poster child for the phrase, "give it back to Marvel," meaning give the studio rights to the Fantastic Four back to Marvel Studios. It really bums me out to see what happened to this film, and to have to give it the ranking that I give it. Honestly, I was confused as to why this movie was getting trashed while watching it for the first time. The movie seemed like it was destined to receive hatred no matter what type of movie it ended up being, primarily by angry, spite-filled comic elitists. Upon rewatching the film to make this video, I found myself thinking the same thing. Maybe it's not so bad. Then again, the second and third acts hit and I lose all desire to live. This film is firmly in the really bad category. It's hard to justify any other score for this when everything from the characters to the plot to the CGI is just terrible. The movie screams rush job, and it does a terrible disservice to Marvel's first family. Fox originally planned a sequel to this film and had already started pre-production, but the critical reception and commercial response canceled those plans real quick. The worst part is that it's 2 strikes in a row for Marvel's Fantastic Four. If someone doesn't pry these characters away from Fox, they may end up burying them for good, which is a shame because they have arguably the most important stories in Marvel's history. Well, I went ahead and made myself sad while making this video. It's a shame to have to put something into a really bad category, but this film has virtually no saving graces. However, we do want to know what you thought. Are we off point here? Is there something about the film that you liked or something that you hated that I missed? Let us know down in the comments. Feel free to make suggestions about other comic-related travesties that we should discuss as well. This has been Nick from Key Issues. Thanks for watching, and remember the motto, comics over everything.